Welcome into episode 26 of JD's Empire Sports Talk. Best time of the year right now with March Madness coming up. And today's episode will be about March Madness as a whole. And also, I think we'd best to talk about, of course, St. John's. So, someone I've talked about for numerous episodes, but when we include the Rangers, Knicks, and St. John's as well. So, I think it's best to talk about them and just March Madness as a whole. I mean, it's always a great 3, 4 weeks, just incredible basketball. It doesn't matter who it is. There's always a team that you don't expect to come out of nowhere. They just come out of nowhere and win. Recent teams that you could think of was it Oakland with Goki last year, St. Peter's, who's in close by in New Jersey. They went on a magical run a few years ago. It was just a bunch of different teams or stories you can think of. Loyola Chicago with Sister Jean is a bunch of those teams, and we'll see if this year there's a team out there that can do that. And I want to talk about that as well later. We'll get into the favorites, of course, the big dogs you can say that should win and have a really legit chance at winning. I think there's a top. I think this tournament overall is a top heavy tournament compared to past years. I don't think it'll. I mean, I could be probably be wrong, but I don't see or foresee a seed higher than a 6 or 7 getting to that Elite Eight, Final Four type of game that we've seen recently. I don't think that'll happen this year. I think the heavyweights or top seeds, I should say, because some of these heavyweights are having down years. But I think these top seeds will have very good success in this tournament, and I think that the tide will change a little bit. But I could totally be wrong on that. I also talk about I'll get into the sleeper teams. There's a few of those, and there's one team specifically that I really like, and I talked about on my other podcast earlier. I really like a certain team. I don't want to spoil it yet, and also some bracket busters. Maybe a team that can go in there. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to go deep, but maybe in the first 2 rounds cause some disruption with those higher seeds and make some noise. And you never know what can happen after that. But overall, round of 64 will start Thursday at 12:15, of course, and games will run all day. And same thing on Friday. But before that, it would be the first 4 games. North Carolina and Texas will be one of those important ones. I can't remember the other one. Xavier, no, is it North Carolina? It's North Carolina and San Diego State, and Xavier and Texas. And then the other two are 16 seeds that we don't really have to be too concerned about going forward after that. But Tuesday night and Wednesday night, we'll have those two games each night, and then we'll get into the round of 64. But before that, I think it's best to talk about St. John's. So I want to talk about them briefly because I'll probably bring them up in the next episode as well, more so matchup based. But I think this is a good time to start with them. So St. John's, terrific year. They finished 30-4, number 2 seed, or they got one of the number 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament this year. They beat Creighton in the Big East tournament final, so they won the regular season Big East title and the Big East tournament final, which is very hard. Sometimes we've seen it in a number of different conferences where the team they go out and win the regular season title and then they lose in the tournament. So that's very nice for St. John's to do both of those. They're a terrific team. We know that. Lost 4 games all year, and to teams that made the tournament. Baylor made the tournament. Georgia made the tournament. Actually, no, correct me. Villanova did not make it. That was one of the losses. And Creighton. So overall, they did not have any bad losses. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat. A very, very good team. And from the outside noise, because obviously if it's coming from me, it could be a little biased. But from the outside people and like places um, uh, shows I've watched, friends I have that aren't fans of St. John's and from other states and they don't really know too much about them, they're asking me, do they have a legit chance? And from what I believe they do. I believe they are a Final Four Elite Eight team. I say the floor is Elite Eight. That if you don't get to Elite Eight after this year, it's a disappointment in my opinion. But I think they have the talent to get to the championship, and defense is the key to that. So they have a great defense. We know that they're top 3, 4 in the entire country in defense. They're at one point last week number 1. They still might be going in to these games, and that's what I'm telling people. They're a extremely talented team with a great defense and a great coach. So they have the formula to do it. It's just that we'll get into it in a little bit, but the region they're in, and if they were able to get out of that, and I believe they can, I don't know if they can get through the rest of it, just how difficult it can be throughout the rest of the year. But I think they overall though they'll have a good shot, and I'm hearing it from other people predicting them to the Final Four, to the Elite Eight, to kind of in that range. They start up Thursday night at 9:45, so make sure everyone you're tuned in. A little late night, it'll probably be over. It says approximate tip at 9:45, but it depends if that happens the game before and everything that's running on schedule beforehand. But we'll see what happens. But it'll be a late night. Hopefully the Johnnies can make us happy. This is a game they must win, and I think this is a game they can win handedly. I've done some little bit of research on Omaha. I'll talk about that more though in the next episode. Right now, they're around 19, 20 point favorite, so they should handle business. Omaha, you're not going to take anything away from them. I mean, they're here. They're a 15 seed, so they are a lower seed, of course. But they did what they had to do to get here. So they should not take them lightly, and I think they will have good success. This could be a good game, just to get the kinks out, the nerves of playing in a big stage. They'll be in Providence, Rhode Island, so I'm sure they'll have some home field, some fans coming down, some home court advantage. I would believe so, from what I've seeing the St. John's community looks like they're going to rally over and get there for the whole weekend because everyone expects them to get through this weekend and get to next weekend to the Sweet 16. So we all like that. We have the confidence and we're feeling good about this thing. But the path, I think we could start now talking about just the overall path of what they can go through. I mentioned they teased it a little bit before. So they're in the West region. I have it pulled up here. I just want to get it ready here so I'm not squinting. But so the number one seed in this region is Florida. Very, very good team. We know that they had a terrific year, just like St. John's, and they won the SEC. So they're no joke. And I think that they will be what's the word I'm looking for? They will have some tests along the way, but I think they'll get through it. One of those tests I think is UConn or Oklahoma. So UConn is playing Oklahoma. I think that UConn will most likely win that game, and if they do, they're going to give Florida a run for their money. I know UConn is not the same team they were the last 2 years, but I've watched them up close. Even when they're not playing St. John's, they're always on Fox Sports and stuff like that during the week, and of course on the weekend. So I always like to dig in and watch. Not a huge like. Listen, I respect Coach Hurley, but I don't like him because of who he coaches. But I respect the way he goes about it. And I watched UConn a lot this year. They're younger than they were the last 2 years, but they have a lot of talent. And the games they lost were very, very close. And I think that's a product of them being inexperienced in some positions. So they can very easily go out there, win their first round game, which I think will be a battle against Oklahoma. But they can give Florida a run for their money. So those three teams right there are definite ways that the teams that St. John's can run into eventually. Number five seed Memphis. I'm not too sold on them. I think they'll be all right, but I don't think they're a threat to St. John's. I would account UConn as more of a threat. So honestly, even we could take Oklahoma out as well. I would say right now Florida and UConn are two threats to St. John's. Skip Colorado State to 12 seed. I don't think they're going to win that game. Maryland 4 seed. They are definitely a threat. Kevin Willard, if a name that rings a bell to some people, he's from Seton Hall. He could be a guy that he doesn't really know the personnel St. John's has, but he knows Patino. Coached against him in other places as well. But they will definitely to be a threat. Maryland was very good this year, and they're dangerous, and they have size. That could be a battle. That's three teams I would think right there. Missouri, I don't think they're that much of a threat. They had an all right year. Texas Tech, I think St. John's honestly matches up really, really good with them, so I wouldn't be too concerned. That would be a potential Sweet 16 matchup if the cards would break right for both teams, which I think that's what will happen. So I wouldn't consider them too much of a threat. So I would probably stick with the three. Kansas and Arkansas. So that's the matchup before St. John's game Thursday night, and whoever wins that, and if St. John's were able to get through Omaha, they would match up in the round of 32. And honestly, I'm more nervous about whoever they play in that game than who they would play in the Texas. If say it's Texas Tech, I'm more nervous about the round of 32 potential game, and I don't know who's gonna win the Arkansas Kansas game. I kind of feel it's a toss up. So whoever wins still would make me nervous. Kansas has good pedigree, very talented team. AJ Storr would face Coach Pitino, who Coach Pitino basically told him, "I don't want you." So that'll be a very, very interesting game. And Zuby Ejiofor, our center, came from Kansas, so it's a lot of a lot of good things coming from that. Arkansas as well. Boogie Fland, who's a guy that St. John's recruited, Stepanek product, so he's from the New York area. He went to Arkansas. He's been injured all year, but he will be back for this more than likely. So that's something they got to keep an eye on. And Coach Calipari, I mean, you know him. He's a fiery guy. He's like Patino. They're the same type of coach, and I think that's someone regardless if it's Bill Self or Calipari, either one of those teams can give St. John's a run for their money. So I would consider that, I don't know, I guess 3.5, maybe a half of a challenge or someone to be afraid of, just because of you don't know who you're going to play out of those two teams, so you don't have to worry about both because you're only going to play one. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But overall, though, St. John's, if they can get through that round of 32 game that I said is very tough, more than likely you're going to play Texas Tech or it could be in Missouri. I don't see those lower. Drake is a team I've heard as a lot of people are putting a lot of stock into them. I don't know too much about them, but I don't think they can make it that far. They'll probably prove me wrong after saying that, but we'll see what happens with that one. And then if they were to get to the Elite Eight, it would be Florida. That would be for the West region. And I think that St. John's has a legit chance of beating them. All these teams I feel they could beat, it's just going to be a challenge. And then if they were able to come through they were able to get through that, they would play the winner of the South region. That's where we'll go next. So it's a very I think it's an interesting region as well, just because there's some lower seeds that can make noise. From what I did research and just watching games, I think these lower seeds they can have some fun. But Auburn, number one seed in that region, I expect them to run through. Not easily, I wouldn't say easily, but I think they'll get through it. It seems like the teams that they're playing, they can match up well against, and I think that that'll be the case. 8-9 matchup, so the winner that Auburn will more than likely play. Well, they would play, but as long as they win, Louisville or Creighton, which I think has the potential to be probably it could to me the best game of the entire first 2 days. I really think so. I mean, I was sitting there back and forth. I'm like, who's gonna win this? Who's gonna win this? I couldn't tell you right now. Watching Creighton up close more, they're a very good team, but I think they have some holes, and I think they're inexperienced at some spots. Louisville surprised everyone this year from what they were last year. So I think they can keep that magic going, and they were very, very good. It's a weak ACC, so you got to take that into account. Then Michigan and UC San Diego. UC San Diego, I think has the potential to get through the first two rounds and possibly the third round, but that would be if they run into Auburn. I don't know how they're going to beat them. But they're one of those teams, you always look for a Cinderella team. Who do you think that could check the box of tall, lanky, and could shoot the three? UC San Diego, they could score. So that's something we had to keep in mind, and their defense is very good. Texas A&M and Yale. Yale is someone I picked against last year. I thought they were going to get blown out. They're in the same exact spot, 13 seed against an SEC opponent. I think this year they're more prepared for the situation, and I know they won last year, the first game. So, and I think they're even more prepared for it. So we'll see what happens with them. I think in this region so far, UC San Diego and Yale potential to make some moves in the region. Ole Miss, and then they're playing the winner of San Diego State and UNC. I'm not really too. It's all right. I'm not really into that game that very much. We'll see what happens there. Then Iowa State and Lipscomb. I think Iowa State is very, very stingy team. I know a lot of people aren't high on them because they started out so well and then they kind of teetered down a little bit. But I'm high on them just because of defense. I think they have the potential to go far. Keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on the Cyclones. Then the next game, Marquette, New Mexico. Coach Rick Pitino's son is the head man at New Mexico. This is a tournament team that honestly they made it last year. They have very, very good players, top players in the country on this team. So I think they'll match up with Marquette very well. Marquette, they're good, but I think New Mexico has more firepower to beat them. Then the last game there, Michigan State and Bryant. Michigan State should, I think, obliterate them. Honestly, I think that might be the worst game out of this entire region. I think Michigan State's just way better in every category. I mean, I don't want to sound that like I'm so confident in it, but I don't think they have a chance. But this is one of the regions, though, I feel is another one that's very tricky. We'll see what happens, but definitely lower seeds having a chance. But I think Auburn will come away winning the region just because of how they how they played this year compared to what happened to them last year, losing to Yale. Guys are back. I don't think they forgot that, so it's something to keep an eye on. And we'll go to the top right, the East region. I think this region's not a joke, but I think it's I feel there's only really a few teams that have the potential to win a championship in this region, and I think there's one team you have to keep an eye on. This is my favorite team. I'm hitting the mic and everything right now. I think this is my favorite team um, to go out and make a ton of noise. So right now, Duke is the one seed here. They're playing. It doesn't matter if they're playing the first round. They're going to move on. Even if they don't have Cooper Flag, they'll be fine. Next game, Mississippi State and Baylor. I think this is a team, two teams that floundered a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I think Baylor has the potential to play well in that game, and we'll see what happens going forward with that. But I think Baylor can win that game. Oregon Liberty. I Everyone's telling me Liberty's going to win just because of the way they play and they can match up with a Power Five team. But Oregon in March, they've lost one game I think in the whole month of March, and they get hot at this time of year. It doesn't matter who's on the team. Dana Altman always gets them going, so I think they can beat Liberty, and I think they can make a little bit of a run. Depends who they run into. Then Arizona and Akron, so two teams that have the potential facing each other in the second round with former Pac-12 mates, Arizona and Oregon. I think Arizona will take care of them. They are another very, very talented team. I just don't think played up to. I mean, fourth seed's pretty good, but I think they could have played up more um, throughout the year. Moving on, BYU and VCU. Okay, I didn't want to spoil it. BYU is my team to go absolutely crazy. I just wanted to make sure they were running good on time. But BYU, yes, I think is a team that's going to go absolute crazy in this tournament. Now they're in the Big 12, so there's no more of the controversy. They don't play good teams. They play very good teams, and they came away with a successful season. I know people are high on VCU as well. If they escaped that one, I think they beat Wisconsin pretty well. I think they match up way better than any other team against Wisconsin. And then looking ahead, potential Alabama. We're going to get to them. But yeah, the next matchup, Wisconsin and Montana. This one, I think Wisconsin wins. Uh, I don't really think there's much of an argument there. St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. This one can go either way. I just think St. Mary's had a great year in the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga and all of them. St. Mary's had a good year. I think they win the first one. And then Alabama versus Robert Morris. Alabama will probably score 100 in this game, and then they'll face St. Mary's in the second round. Moving on to the Midwest region, Houston is the number one seed there against. I couldn't even tell you the name of the school. I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't matter. Houston will move on. I think the one seeds are going to dominate in this year, and the two seeds as well. I think that's what I'm saying. There's top heavy. I think they're going to dominate this year. Then Gonzaga and Georgia 8-9 matchup. I think Gonzaga got underseeded a little bit. They don't have the flashiness and all the magic that comes with them. So I think people disrespected them a little bit. I think they will if they win, to give Houston a run, definitely a run for their money in the second round. But Houston's they're a talented team. And then Clemson and McNeese. McNeese is a team that made the tournament last year. Everyone was high on them and they lost. So I'm trying to stay away from them. I know everyone's saying Clemson's boring. They win games, but they don't really win them impressively. Doesn't matter. If you can win a game, it doesn't matter how you do it. So I think Clemson will have success in the tournament a little bit. It just depends who they run into. I think it's all matchup based, really. It really doesn't matter who you play, but if you match up specifically well with a certain team, it does not matter. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Purdue and High Point. Purdue, I feel is on upset watch. I think I have confidence in them that they can get through this game, but High Point could definitely push their buttons a little bit. So I would watch out for that one. Then next, Illinois against either the winner of Texas and Xavier. Xavier, I think, will win the playing game. They're a very stingy team, and they can very easily win that first game as well. I think Illinois, though, will come away with that one. Kentucky versus Troy. It's not the Kentucky of old, but they have a different stamp on their type of team they want to run over there. I think they're going to have a decent amount of success. I think they have a kind of a, I wouldn't say cupcake walk to the Sweet 16 after the first weekend, but I think they have a pretty good shot, and they should. Expectation should be we're getting to the Sweet 16. I really don't think there's an argument with that one. And then 7-10 matchup, UCLA, Utah State, another one. I think this game is going to be coming down to the last minute. But UCLA, after getting ripped by head coach Mick Cronin, have turned on the gas pedal a little bit, and they look very good for the most part. I think they'll play well. And then at the bottom, Tennessee, Wofford. Tennessee will spank them. I think Tennessee will have a lot of success in this tournament as well. I don't want to give up all my predictions wise, like who I have. I'm not gonna say who's gonna win the championship because I want you guys to see it on Thursday morning. I was about to go to the next thing Thursday morning. My bracket and Jet Specials Ryan Downey's bracket will be out right before the games tip off, so you guys can see who we're going with and all that good stuff. It'll probably be out, I would say, 9 a.m. just so people, if they want to look at what we have, we've done our research. I'll tell you that. So we're not picking it out of air. We've done our research, and if you want to listen to us, you are more than welcome to going in and commenting or maybe going back at us if you don't agree with a specific thing. Keep an eye on that, and that'll be out Thursday morning. So we dove into all the matchups. I told you my favorites, but I think Auburn, St. John's, Houston, and BYU honestly are the top. In my opinion, they have the. I'm not saying they're the best four teams there, but I think the favorites to me are those two teams. And of course, Tennessee you got to take into account. Duke is always they're going to be there. I just don't think they're that experienced. Alabama has a terrific offense. Michigan State's another team that you got to keep an eye on. Um, Florida. There's a lot of good teams. Maryland, I think, is a sneaky one. So that's what I wanted to go to next. Some sneaky sleeper teams. Keep an eye on. Iowa State, like I said, they're a high seed, but they're getting slept on a little bit. Maryland's one of those teams. Let's see. Let's see here. Clemson can be one of those teams, depending on if it breaks right. Gonzaga, another one. I would not be shocked if they were to upset Houston. I wouldn't be shocked by that. St. Mary's, no. Like you said, BYU. Oregon can be one of those teams because of how hot they get. Arizona, too. That could be a coin flip type of game. There's a few of those teams out there. And then those bracket busters that I was saying before. UC San Diego, very high on them. They could have a chance at doing a lot of damage in this tournament. I think New Mexico as well. Michigan, they would run into Michigan State if both teams were to win. So that would be a very tough matchup for them. But if they can get through that, I think they would be in a really good spot. Someone that I talk about a lot. UConn is down, like I said, but I think they could be someone that they can make some noise if it breaks right and they play up to their potential because they lost a lot of close games this year. Just peeking around a little bit. I don't really think there's any. Let's see, Utah State, not too sold on them. Wisconsin, I'm not sold on them at all. Liberty can be a bracket buster. Keep an eye out. Uh, Not really. I like I said, it was kind of a more of a top heavy type of tournament this year to me. But I could also be proved wrong. So if you guys think I'm wrong, or the games will speak for itself at some point, right? But I think that could easily be the case that I say all this right now, and then there's going to be a team. There's always one team that you don't expect to go out there. So I'm trying to come up with ones I really think that sleepers that you got to watch out for. But it could be a team that slips everyone's mind and they go and make some damage. But with that being said, I think that's good for episode 26. I think it was a good breakdown of March Madness as a whole. So I would keep notes out there. Brackets will be out. My bracket and Ryan's bracket will be out Thursday morning before the game, just so we have an idea of what we're looking for and who we're going with. And any questions, just go out there, leave us some comments. Maybe if you don't know a specific matchup and stuff like that. But it's going to be a very exciting March Madness. I'm hyped. This is my favorite time of the year. Next episode, we're going to do Knicks and Rangers. That'll be coming out soon. Really, really soon. Nets, we'll probably do one at the end of the week just to recap what's going on with them. Maybe not. We'll see what happens. I think we will, though, just because of injuries and stuff like that that are happening with the Mets. So we got to keep on. And then next week, we'll have CT. I'm going to reach out to him soon. CT more than likely will be back because we were all high on the Yankees and the Mets. We still are in spring training, but we know what happened after a few weeks with injuries and all that stuff. So we'll definitely talk Mets, Yankees, all baseball overall next week before everyone officially opens up because I know Dodgers and Cubs are soon, but everyone opens up next week. So we'll definitely do that. If any Jets news comes in, Knicks, Rangers, of course, next week. St. John's will keep tabs on them depending on how they do. But that being said, episode 26 is officially over. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, share, whatever you want to do. TikTok, Instagram, get the YouTube videos, some views for us. Leave some comments on there, whatever you want to do. But episode 26 is over and JD is out.